Good morning. Good morning. Sitting outside again. My sort of weekend routine. I do it a little bit. Sometimes I do it a little bit different. Give myself permission. Freedom. A life of freedom. It's my life. And we can put lots of pressure on ourselves, right? To do things a certain way because other people are doing them. Because even yesterday we talked about honoring our word. And I know when I started this Rise and Shine journey, I was like, oh, yes, part of what I'm doing every morning is getting myself up out of my comfy chair. Because as an Enneagram 9, I can get a little bit too comfortable in my comfort zone. That's why it's called the comfort zone. And I would lose track of time and not get up and get started with my day and being productive. So I had to set some a goal for myself to start moving and by a certain time. And I thought, well, sunrise. And so literally the sunrise is my cue to rise and shine. So it's very practical, like little, my theme of the year. I got my little heater out here. But within that, I give myself a lot of freedom because as long as I'm meeting the basic spirit of what I'm trying to do, I'm honoring my word. But, and there were periods of time in there, especially as I was setting up this routine. And then I started like doing these videos and writing and, all this. And then I even had certain, every once in a while, if I wasn't on by a certain time, I actually had people looking for it. And I was like, oh, so I started to put like some more restrictions and pressure on myself. Oh, I've got to do it. I even have the writing done by a certain time, and it's got to get out, and I've got to do it exactly this way, and I need to be walking at the park and blah blah. Like I started to put rules on myself. This is going to connect to Hebrews today. By the way, I'm going somewhere with this. So I always have to, like, when I catch myself getting caught up in like rules and it's got to be done a certain way and like that, I check myself. That's a red flag for myself. Like, oh, I'm getting away from the spirit of what it is I'm trying to do, the heart of what I'm trying to do. And then I'm getting caught up in setting up rules for myself, which no, that's Jesus came to free us from that. And that is what Hebrews chapter 7 is all about. I got so excited this morning. Oh my gosh. Because it was a little bit like going back into the parables and Jesus and the way he talked. It was there, like it was some mysterious stuff that was that is in chapter 7. Kind of almost, it brings a lot of the Old Testament in, a lot of like, you have to pay attention is what I'm saying. Like, you can't just read literally what's there. You got to read between the lines. You got to think about the spirit of what it's trying to say. Like, that jazzes me. I love to think deeply and be invited to think deeply. It's like, oh, wait a minute. There's a lot here that I get to dig into. So I geeked out on it a little bit this morning. And, so hence I actually missed the sunrise this morning. And that's okay because I'm still out here in the morning. It's 18 degrees here, y'all. It is, and it's only mid-November. It's the week of Thanksgiving is going to happen this week in the year of 2022. It is November 20th today, 11/20/22. And we're talking about Hebrews chapter 7. So the author of Hebrews, we think maybe is Paul, we're not sure, starts going back to, and please forgive me, I'm probably butchering how this is said, but Melchizedek, priest of Melchizedek, way back. And he was somebody who has walked with God, I think, if I remember correctly, and he never died. He just went one day, he was walking with God and he was just taken up to heaven. Didn't even die. And so the phrase I clued in on this morning as Paul is making this comparison and setting up, he almost sets up like a case, a logical case of why Jesus is of a different order, which means that we're as his follower and as our high priest, we are supposed to live and do things differently. And so he does this, not only a little bit of genealogy, but this comparison to Melchizedek, the power of a life that cannot be destroyed. And that this is different than the priests, because in traditional Judaism, only descendants, the tribe of Levi, can be priests. And the exception is Melchizedek, and it was a priest king. And even Abraham paid tithes when he paid tithes to Melchizedek. Melchizedek blessed Abraham. So we know from this is evidence that Melchizedek is the higher priest. He is the one. He's of a different order. He's not only a priest, but he's a king. And then David mimicked some of what Melchizedek did when he reigned. And so he's also seen of the same line as a priest king. And Melchizedek, the name Melchizedek even means king of righteousness. And he was the king of a town called Salem, which means king of peace. So he is the king of righteousness or justice, depending on which translation you're reading, and peace. So that's really interesting. And then David is from the same order, and then he talks about the Messiah coming, who is going to be of the same order, not of the order of Levi. Those priests are just normal people. That's what's said here. Normal people. They live a life, they die. They live according to the law. Again, we get this theme of the law kills. The law does not bring life. The law is not about love. The law is about checking your boxes. Do this, do that, do this, do that. And of course, because we're human, we don't always do things perfectly. It's impossible to do things perfectly. And so by the very nature of language paradox, when you create a set of laws that have to be followed perfectly, you create sin. You create sin, or doing things wrong and not according to the law. And we know that that is what causes death. Like it's, because it sucks the life out of life, because you're focused on, I just got to do this right and do this right and do this right. And oh my God. And then I've got to sacrifice and repent. Like it's life consuming to live that way. And it can be life killing. It doesn't give life. It drains life because it's also impossible. When you go over to the way of Jesus, Jesus is love, God is love, and you go over this way. So that's why I titled today, The Power of Love. When you're living in love and grace, you get to be fully human and not look at what you're doing as everything is sinful and against a law. Like when you're living from love, love is intrinsically in you. That's how you want to live, and it's guiding you in all the fruits of the Spirit, because there's evidence of if that's true or not. Sometimes we can think it's true, but it's really not. But if it's really true, then your life will naturally have these fruits. Patience, love, kindness, humbleness, gentleness, meekness, all of these things, all of the fruits of the spirits will just be a natural outflow of somebody who's living according to the way of Jesus, the way of love. And within that, because we've got automatic grace, we know when we step outside of that and our humanness takes over momentarily. Ego jumps in, we do something wrong, but because we are really intrinsically living by love and driven by love, we immediately notice it. Like our conscience is like, oh my God, I just told that person off, and I know that's because I'm human, I didn't really mean it. I can go and my own conscience will convict me give me healthy guilt. I can go over, repair and fix it, and step right back. And that is loving. And I can go right back into love and grace. Oh yeah, I have grace. I don't have to earn. I'm not proving. I'm not living by the law. I'm living by the power of love. Love does not destroy and cannot be destroyed. Love is the energy that keeps building life, feeding life, energizing life. It, read between the lines, y'all. Don't just take, this is why I love this book, because you can, whether, even if you're a Christian or not, like read it, like, and read in between the lines, because some of the sentences and verses you can actually isolate and take out and really look at it like objectively. What is it saying? And connecting the dots like a puzzle. Like it is so cool. And love, and the fruits of the Spirit in love, which is available to everyone. It is outside of the law. It is outside of lineage. It is outside of all of these things. Like that is what, and being tied to those things is what drains life and kills. Like it's, and requires sort of that daily, it talks about the priesthood of Levi. That's why they had to sacrifice daily and die to themselves. No, they didn't die to themselves, actually. They died to the law. The law had them dying because they were constantly in a state of, I'm awful, I'm bad, I didn't do this perfectly, I've got to sacrifice. And even the priests themselves had to do that before they could even offer forgiveness to other people in the sins, which is why when Jesus came, it was so radical. It was radical love, the power of radical love. Love is radical, like true love, and when you have your heart changed and the change takes place on the inside, then it naturally changes on the outside. And how we see ourselves, how we see others, we get freed from all of that. Oh my goodness. And so when Jesus offered himself as a sacrifice, and because he was outside of the priesthood of the Levites and he was doing it this way, he's like, it's done. This way of living is done. I'm drawing a line in the sand. I'm showing you how it's done, and I'm willing to die for it because I love you that much. And I know that the power of love, which is eternal life, that I am not even subject to death. So there is really no sacrificing of life, because the power of love is the power of life that cannot be destroyed. What? Y'all, I'm inviting you to go read yourself, like really meditate on it and read the words that are on the page and what they're really saying to you and to me, and why it matters that we need to accept the message of grace and live from a place of love, because it changes how you see everything and everybody. And it changes, and some people just radically overnight that get it, but still it allows you to be human in the process of learning how to live from love. Oh, such good news. All right, I've got to hop on a call, believe it or not. I don't always work on Sundays, but I've made an exception to be flexible today. So I'm going to have to sign off. I want you to rise and shine and invite the power of love into your life. The power of life that cannot be destroyed. All right. See you tomorrow for Hebrews chapter 8. Bye.